All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have the legendary. We have DJ Vicious Lee right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
Man, I'm all right. I'm all right. Just dealing with this interesting LA weather.
I gotta say, man, there's definitely some interesting weather down here in Ontario, Canada, man. One minute it's snow, the next minute you're ready to go to the beach. It's some of the most wonkiest weather I've ever actually seen.
Yeah, it rained on us last night, and today is like bright and sunny, so it's real confusing.
And also as well, because I know you're a very busy individual, man, and you got that gig coming up tonight, so I'm not going to waste no time, and I'm going to dive right into this broadcast. But I want to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career thus far. And I have to ask, man, what originally made you decide to pursue a career as a DJ within the music industry, man? Because you're one of the best individuals to ever touch them ones and twos.
Man, when I first heard Jam Master Jay, and I was like, whatever the hell he's doing, I want to do that. I didn't know, I didn't understand it. I just knew he was on a turntable making some noise, and I wanted to do it.
And I have to ask, man, what was actually your first DJ machine that you actually got your hands on back in the day? Because I do know that the originals always had the vinyls on top.
Man, so I'm gonna tell you how I actually first started learning how to scratch. I took my mom's stereo system that had a turntable on the top with a radio and an 8-track player, and it had the stereo speakers left and right. I took out one of the speakers and used the balance as a crossfader.
I gotta say, that is the most clever thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's how that was the first thing that I actually started to learn to try how to scratch on. And then after that, I progressed to the Radio Shack mixers, the ones that, when you first, start seeing those old, like 1981, 82, 83, I got my hands on the first, like the Radio Shack mixer with some Audio Technica belt drive turntables, and actually did like my first party on that setup.
And also as well, while we're on the topic of just legendary DJing, man, you are also the only DJ to ever actually appear on a Tupac Shakur recording. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more backstory on that. And of course, how did yourself and Tupac originally meet and get connected?
So I'm part of this crew called West Side Tribe. So, Tone Loc, Wild Thing, Funky Moco, Medina, that's the name of our crew. And so a lot of cats used to hang out with us. And one of the cats that used to hang with us was Laylaw from NWA, the producer. And so when he was producing Pac's record at that time, and he needed a DJ to come in and do some scratching. And so since I was like one of the little homies, he was like, hey, man, why don't you come in the studio and do these cuts for me? And that's how I actually, first connected and met with Tupac and was able to get on that Strictly from My Niggas album.
And I gotta say as well, that is probably one of the most iconic Tupac hip hop records in my personal opinion, man. It had such phenomenal content on that.
Yeah. No, it was definitely an experience, and the crazy part is, short story, when we were actually working on that song, Cool G Rap and Sir Jinx was in the studio next to us at Echo Sounds, and it was the day that the LA riots broke out. It was like the most craziest thing, back in '92 when that went down. So we actually cut the session early just so we could leave the studio and head to LA to see what was going on with the LA riots.
And I have to ask as well, what was Tupac's work ethic actually in the studio? Because I've heard some crazy stories that man would just snap of the fingers, get everything done in literally one studio session.
Yeah, no, I've seen it personally where he literally would take 3 takes. He would do his first vocals, then he would do his second set of vocals where he doubled his original vocals, and he would come back and do ad-libs. So 3 takes and he's done. I've seen it. So that's why that man has so much music that was so much stuff stored up, because he literally could do 3 or 4 takes and be done with the song.
And also as well, you were also featured on the Arsenio Hall show as a guest DJ with the Posse. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that appearance, and of course, what was it like just showing your skills on national television?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because when I got that connection, I thought I was just going to kind of be in the background, just scratching with the band as they played. I didn't realize that I was actually going to be a featured guest. So Robin DiMaggio, who was the band leader at that time for the crew, he came to one of my clubs that I DJ'd at Santa Monica called Harvell's, and when he heard me DJing with the band, he was like, "Dude, I got to get you on the show." So at first I was like, yeah, whatever. But then when he called me and it actually came to fruition, I was like, whoa, I have my own dressing room, I got my own billing. So that was, I had to say, one of my highlights of my career, man, because I didn't expect to be presented in that fashion.
And I got to say as well, back then, Arsenio Hall was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, late night talk shows on television, man. I do remember when they re-brought it back out for a little bit. It didn't do as well, but he had a very lengthy run back in the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. I had a lot of my friends, that got on the show and performed, Far Side and gosh, I mean, there's so many different guys that got a chance to go on in that first run. So to be able to get on that show when it came back, I mean, that definitely was an honor.
And also as well, you have actually had the opportunity to do world touring with the one and only iconic hip-hop artist Tone Loc. As you already said, you're in a group with him. But I have to ask, can you tell our listeners a bit more about that worldwide tour? And of course, what was one of your most fondest memories you shared on tour? Because I can just imagine traveling the world, getting to do what you love to do.
Yeah, I think I hit about at least 35 states with him doing a tour, when I was still actually carrying my vinyl. And I have to say, one of the most memorable shows that we did was in a cornfield in the middle of Nebraska, or I think it was Nebraska. It was called this event called Bash in the Grass. It was like this huge festival. So we're driving up to this, field, and you can't see anything because it's just corn. And next thing you know, you hit this opening, and there's like 50,000 people in the middle of this field with this huge stage. Like, I couldn't see the end of the people. So that was probably one of the most memorable shows that I've had with him because it was just that size of crowd was just like, oh my God, we're performing in front of it was just thousands and thousands of people. It's him, Coolio, and I think Sir Mix-a-Lot was on that show. It was a crazy show. But that was probably one of my most fondest memories with him.
And I have to ask, man, because obviously, just the name of that alone, you were probably really iffy on how many people were going to show up to that particular show. When you were on the way to that concert, did you ever be like, man, like, I don't think a lot of people are going to show up just by the name of, like Nebraska in the Grass or something like that? Like, when you got there, were you super surprised at the amount of people that were actually in this cornfield?
Yeah, it blew me away. Just the setup and the amount of people that were out there. I mean, the people in the back, they had to have jumbotrons just to see the stage. I mean, that's how many people were there. That's how much space it was. It was crazy. But yeah, I was totally shocked. Like, I think this is the most amount of people I've ever DJed in front of ever.
And I gotta say though, in a way, the people out there in Nebraska are pretty smart as well because you don't get any bigger than a giant cornfield. Because there's some cornfields, man, that actually are the lengths of like 3 or 4 football stadiums, man. So they definitely chose the right location, and they definitely, by the sounds of it, promoted that show very, very accordingly.
Yeah, definitely.
But also as well, during your extensive DJ career, you also had the opportunity to not only work with hip-hop artists, but you also had the opportunity to work with sports legends as well. And one of them is actually NBA legend and former Los Angeles Laker Magic Johnson. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that. And of course, what was it like just working alongside Magic?
Okay, so the first time I ever did an event for Magic Johnson, he used to have this basketball game called Midsummer Nights. And all the NBA All-Stars and legends used to come out to L.A., during the summer, and they would just play in this, almost like a charity game for Magic Johnson. So he would throw these wild after parties. So I actually DJ'd the after party for one of the Midsummer Night games. So that was the first time that I saw him, and then actually saw Shaq in person for the very first time. And he shook my hand while I was DJing at the turntables, and literally it took up half of my arm. And then the second time I worked with Magic, I did a more personal event for him. I DJ'd for his son, I believe it was EJ, actually at his house for his son's birthday. So I actually got some pretty good photos of Magic Magic's memorabilia actually in his house.
I gotta say as well, he's still very active. Obviously not on the court, but I believe right now he's still doing ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. Man, still very active within the basketball community.
Oh yeah, very, very. He's still very much a part of our Los Angeles cloth when it comes to our LA Lakers.
And also as well, in the year 2012, you actually had the opportunity to DJ at the red carpet for the 2012 movie, The Amazing Spider-Man. I was wondering, how did you originally land that opportunity?
So, by accident, I got connected with a company called 1540 Productions, and they do a lot of events here in Los Angeles. They work with Sony Studios, Warner Brothers, and Disney. And I met one of the production guys and his girl on a date at my club in Santa Monica, and they were like, hey, you know, we got a gig for you to DJ. So I was like, okay, yeah, no problem, take my number. And then the first gig I did for them was the Ice Cube movie, Are We There Yet? It was the premiere party for that. So I rocked that party so hard, it was like, okay, yeah, we got another gig for you. And it turned out to be the premiere party for the Jamie Kennedy movie, The Son of the Mask. So now I rock two different types of crowds. So at this point, I was their DJ. So any event that they had, they would pull me in if they were the ones that bring the DJ. So I can't even tell you how many movie premiere parties I've done. It's just a blur at this point. You know, Talladega Nights. I've done some James Bond stuff. I did Pineapple Express. I mean, there's a lot of movies that they did the premiere parties for that they dragged me along. You know, so. And I actually got connected with them through, I connected to Sony Studios through them. So I DJ Sony Studios Christmas parties every year. And then from Sony Studios, you know, that actually took me, the girl that did the tables and chairs for Sony worked at Staples Center. And then she pulled me over to Staples Center to then actually have me DJing after the Grammy after parties at Staples Center, which turned into me DJing for the LA Kings. So it's like a crazy, path of how I got to certain places.
And one thing I have to ask, because obviously, like you said, you've DJ'd tons of red carpets, but from what you can remember from the Amazing Spider-Man red carpet, what was it like just being on there? And of course, did you get the opportunity to kind of bump into any of the stars of that film?
That was actually a first, because normally when they set me up, they usually kind of put me in the background and you can just hear the music. But for me to actually be on the carpet, like the DJ was front and center, and I think at that time I had the Stanley Cup next to me as well, that was crazy, because literally every star of the movie had to walk by my turntables to get into the event.
I got to say as well, you know, at the end of the day, it's pretty cool being able to DJ those events. But like you said, actually have the opportunity to be up front and center, and especially having the Stanley Cup beside you, you already know the celebrities, at least most of them, are definitely going to try and are going to walk up and look at the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, yeah. I think I probably have the only photo of the Stanley Cup next to a set of turntables.
And also, as well, when we're also on the topic of DJing and whatnot, you've also had the opportunity to DJ alongside the one and only will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that. And of course, what was it like just working with one of the frontmen of the Black Eyed Peas?
So that event was the Major League Soccer presentation for the LA Galaxy when David Beckham came to Los Angeles. So that was like a party for him, and it actually was inside Staples Center. They turned the basketball court into a huge dance floor, and literally I was the opening for will.i.am before he did his set. So we literally were DJing a huge party inside of Staples Center, you know, for that event. So that definitely was wild, and it was pretty cool, because I know Will, you know, I knew him back in the day before he actually, you know, blew up, because, you know, LA, the hip hop scene here, especially the underground, is a little tight, so we all kind of rub elbows. But yeah, that was a big kick to go ahead and actually be the opening DJ for that event.
And also, as well, as we already know, right now you are actually a mobile DJ, where you DJ obviously events nonstop, and you have one tonight. But for any individuals that are listening that are in the Los Angeles area, that do indeed want to potentially book you for their next event, can you tell us how can they actually go about inquiring about your DJ services? Because I already know if they book you, they're booking the best.
That part. So I'm pretty much DJ viciously on everything, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. if you Google DJ Viciously, my info should pop up. I'm not too hard to find. I'm not hiding from nobody.
And also, as well, if we do have any individuals that are on the West Coast listening to the station right now that are probably hearing that you do have an event, where can our listeners actually go to actually purchase themselves some last-minute tickets to come and see you on the ones and twos this evening?
Well, actually, tonight's a private event. I'm actually doing a mobile gig for a college event, some special type of dinner or something wild. I'm not too sure exactly what it is. But every Sunday, and I've actually been DJing this club for the last 18 years, going on 19 years, I DJ at a place called Harvell's in Santa Monica. Every Sunday night, I'm there, rain or shine. As long as there's no pandemic and we get shut down, we've been there. And it's a long-running show called the Toledo Show, and I'm the DJ for that show. And it's been going on for 20 years. I've been DJing going on for 19 years at that location in Santa Monica. So if anybody wants to come out and check me out, Sunday night, Harvell's in the city of Santa Monica.
And also, I have to ask, man, what is next for yourself, DJ Viciously? Is there anything we happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you do still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on 97.7 FM this evening.
Well, right now I'm just kind of enjoying life, just doing my gigs. Me and my wife just growing in happiness. Nothing really coming up right now. I am working on some NFTs and some metaverse situations with a good friend of mine. We're going to have a hip-hop metaverse going on, kind of like in the likes of Snoop's got happening. But other than that, just doing my gigs and, enjoying life out here in L.A.
And I gotta say that's the best way to live, man. Not only the LA life, but just being able to kick your feet back and just enjoy life, man, is the best way to be. No stress, nothing but music and fun.
There you go.
But also, Viciously, before we actually part ways, man, if you can, I do know you already dropped your social media handles a few moments ago, but for the listeners that are just pulling their phones out, if you can, drop them social media handles one more time. That way our listeners can follow you all across the board and stay updated on everything you got going on.
All right, so let's spell the name. DJVICIOUSLEE on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Vicious, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening and squeezing in this interview before your private gig, man. It was truly an honor and definitely a privilege, man, from Canada all the way to Los Angeles. Thank you so much, man. Definitely have yourself a wonderful night.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me, and everybody stay up, stay safe, and enjoy the music.
Hey, most definitely, Vicious. Thank you so much, man. Have yourself a wonderful night.
All right, bro. You too.